Little booty shake. Pretty cool, right? But so, this mama is doing incredible, and I like to think that it's for one reason. Us. We're here. We're here. We're keeping a lot of the predators away from her all day long because those herons don't want to be this close to us. There's hundreds of people that come to this visitor center a day. We are doing a good job at helping her keep her babies alive. Now, a blue heron would literally come here, and if they landed right here on the bank and saw all those babies, they would eat 5 or 6 of them in no time, one bite at a time. And so you could see how quickly they would be able to go through all of her babies. And once they know that there's baby gators in this area, they will continually come back until they have gotten all of them. They're not, they're not stupid by any means. Now, another cool thing about these baby gators is, and I really wish that adult gators still had it, is these awesome stripes that they've got on them. All those stripes will fade within the first, probably like 6 years of their life. They'll kind of fade out. You see them still with some cool coloration until they get a little older. And they're only going to grow to be they'll be right about a foot at a year. They grow almost a foot a year for the first 3 to 5 years, and their growth rate slows to about half a foot. You'll have them get up to around 10 feet. If they get above 10 feet, it's going to be a male gator. Okay, the females don't get up over 10 feet too much. So we got 1, 2, 3, 6.
How many batches of babies does she have?
She's got 14 here that I count, and that's 5 more than I've ever seen. What'd you say?
How many batches of babies does she have every year?
One a year, and she's had these babies out for about 3 months. Okay.
Could you grab one for us so we can see it?
On our airboat ride, I think that they have one in a little aquarium, and sometimes they let people hold them right there. So that may or may not be a part of our tour today, but I could easily go grab one. I just won't, because she's right there. Because as much as she has half her body in here, I'm pretty sure that if she wanted to come out to the left, she could make it happen.
Come on, give us a show.
There's one other thing that would give you guys a big show.
This is preparation for your kayak adventure.
Yeah.
I do need to just be ready, right? So what you guys will see is all these little bait fish, and you can see them easily, like right above where the culvert's at, where that the lighter spot is in the water. You can see all these little mini bait fish. Now these gators are feeding themselves from birth. Mom never does anything to help feed them. She is just staying in the general area to keep other predators away. So. She also won't recognize her babies after that 1 to 3 year span where they keep their babies, usually closer to 3 years. If they leave and then they all wander around and they come back and see each other again and they happen to be fighting for a position for a nesting area, she'll kill her own child. Okay. They just don't know any better. And male gators, if they come across this, they're going to wipe all of those out because all that they want, they're similar to bears in that they only want their genetic heritage to move on. They want everything else extinguished. And for all they know, those could be their babies too. But they don't care because they're wiping everything out to make sure, and they're going to do what they can to have babies with her again. So unfortunately, they only mate like once a year, so a lot of times they'll kill out stuff that were their babies before they even had a chance to survive and not even let another litter out for another year. So it's kind of detrimental. Especially during the really hot season, okay? So this plant likes to grow in places where there is a more or less bottomless pit of mud for them to grow in. Their root systems like to be low. So this is a great spot for a gator to come during the hot season when there's a ton of mud and extra water here and just bury themselves next to this plant. So if you're walking around, they're going to see you before you see them. They're going to feel your vibrations of you moving around as well. You're likely not even ever going to see them until they make a move. So it's just a good thing to stick away from while you're out here. I haven't noticed anything for that, but it doesn't have a lot of other good usage. You'll see these really waxy leaves, and as you can kind of tell this morning still, there's still some water collecting on them. They don't absorb much water because these plants don't need all the water that's out here. That's why they live. That's why they only live on the elevated parts. They can actually drown pretty easily if they get too much water. It's found all over the U.S.
Looks like a willow.
You got it. Willows. Willows are extremely important for the natives and for animals. One of my favorite willow facts is actually up in Alaska, the moose grow so quick, and as we know, they're massive creatures, right? Their joints start hurting at a very young age. Willows are natural Tylenol, essentially. There's pain-killing capabilities that they have. So they'll strip off these leaves, and moose need to eat a crazy amount of it for it to have an effect on them. But that's one thing that they like to snack on more than everything else because they know they get a little relief. Native Americans would do the same thing with these leaves that they would do with the insect repellent. Just kind of grind it down to a powder, put it on topically. Has a little bit of antiseptic qualities, I think. Not anything crazy, but more so I think they would ingest it as a powder and eat it to be able to just get a little bit. I mean, hell, we take 1 Advil or 2 Advil, it's probably like stripping 10 plants apart and ingesting it all. It has to be extremely concentrated to feel like what we have today. But they made use of it, and that kind of goes to show you guys, we've seen about 4 or 5 different plants. The natives are using over half of them for something really important. With it. If you'd like a picture of that, we can do that.
Thank you.
So, not going to be much like a chicken egg. You guys can pass it around if you wanted to get your hands on it. Also some gator poop there that's turned white. Try not to touch that when I'm getting the egg. But, so guys, gators are born with 1 extra tooth whenever they're born, solely to get out of that shell, which is pretty cool. And then a lot of times they'll shed that tooth off within the first month of their life. Sometimes though, they will keep it on for the duration of their life. It's kind of hit or miss. Now, she built this with her mouth. Gator's arms are pretty much useless, so they'll build this with their mouth over the course of a couple of days. And essentially they only build a mound. They're pretty smart enough to know to build a mound to a certain level to where it won't get overrun with water, to where all the eggs then drown. So, my favorite gator fact is that gator sex is not decided in the egg until right before birth. And it's decided, yeah, I know this, I like this too. It's its temperature is the only thing that decides the difference between a male and female gator. So, we've had some issues with global warming over time. We've had too many females being born. So, we've instituted gator farms for a couple of reasons. Now, bear with me here, guys. I know that farming animals seems bad, usually. And while, for the most part, it is bad, this is a good thing in its totality. So, let me explain. So, anything that you buy in Florida that's gator-related is farmed gator. It's not wild gator. It's illegal to be able to profit off of wild gator hunt. You still can hunt gator for your own personal meat here if you like. Not as many people do that as they used to because most people were in it to make money. So, what we do now, and we talked earlier about how the gators have a really low survival rate. So, what we've done is we'll raid these. We'll take all the eggs, take them back to a gator farm, and then we're gonna incubate them. We're gonna incubate them to the exact temperature we want. We're gonna get a lot more breeder males made out of these eggs, and then we'll have some females. And to my knowledge, they use a lot more females for what they're doing for their own usage. They get a certain percentage of their animals that they can use. I think it's just a cap on how many gators they can use per place. And then the rest of them, they're forced to rehabilitate until they're big enough to where they're not going to be able to get eaten by a great blue heron. And as we mentioned earlier, they're feeding themselves from birth. So as long as you just put them in an open tank with bait fish, they learn how to hunt, and they're fine. You can let them in nature, and they're gonna know how to do everything. They're extremely good at, instantly branching out, setting the tone, getting the hierarchy set, everything. Hell, they set a hierarchy in their little tubs. I mean, they're already operating, that's their environment for them. So they're already turning that, that's their Everglades until it's not, right? So pretty cool. And so over the course of that, guys, we have increased the gator population because we're letting more gators back out into nature than they were able to get to adulthood because they were all getting eaten. So while I still feel bad for the gators that get lost in the mix into the trade, it's an overall good thing. So we can not feel so bad about it, you know? So, and there's a baby. Oh my gosh, right on the roof. Do you see it?
Yeah.
I may be mistaken that previous, and there's another gallinule right here. Man, we're blessed today. This is great. So this gator here, guys, I would say is probably, I'd say he's probably 8 years old. Somewhere in there. I'd say he's under 10 years old. Gators can live over 60 years, guys. They stop growing for the most part after they're about like 15, 20, they're done growing. I mean, maybe there can be a little bit of girth that they get, but as far as length goes, and that's how I kind of tell the age of them once they get to full length is if they've just got tons and tons of girth, it's kind of similar to humans. We just slowly cultivate mass over life, don't we? Yeah, big guy knows what I'm talking about right here. Yeah, so slowly cultivating that mass over life, and so one thing that you guys were asking me to do earlier is pick up a baby gator. This would be even funnier for me to try, but I don't think you guys can pay me enough to do so. So the only way to know for sure, other than obviously, we know that this is a female. She's got a baby here, right? That's one big indicator. Otherwise, other than the size, it's really hard to tell. If they're over 10 feet, you can assume it's a male. But if they're under 10 feet, what are you going to decide by? Well, males sometimes have scarring from fighting. Sometimes. Other times they'll have a little thicker neck, similar to how deer get thick necks when they're fighting a lot. Now the other thing, the other thing you can do is get in their belly with a couple of fingers and poke up into their belly. There's a little slit, there's a little hole in there. If you poke in there, wiggle your fingers around, if you feel something poking you back, you got a male. If you don't, you got a female. So, like I said, we'll not be doing that today, but it's super interesting. And as when they're really young, you can't even tell when you're feeling. They don't get that pronounced ding-a-lang, so to speak, until they're a little bit older. So this is obviously a female, and